Muito boa tarde a todos, aqui em Ponte Sor e onde quer que estejam a assistir a mais esta edição do Portugal Air Summit. É com imenso gosto e muita honra que mais uma vez participo no Portugal Air Summit e para isso uma primeira palavra de agradecimento ao Presidente da Câmara Municipal de Ponte Sor, Engenheiro Hilário, e ao Comandante Nuno Larim da The Race, extensiva, claro, às suas equipas fantásticas, pelo convite e pela ousadia e coragem que mais uma vez demonstraram em uma altura tão complicada a nível global, como esta em que vivemos hoje em dia, levar avante a realização de mais uma edição do Portugal Air Summit. Muito obrigado. Eu vou passar agora a minha apresentação em inglês, por uma questão de facilidade até de comunicação da mensagem. Penso que o slide já estará pronto. Está ok? Okay, so good afternoon all. Moving now to the subject of my presentation, let's talk a bit about cybersecurity. Why this subject? Well, if the theme of the Portugal Air Summit is flying digital, it's not possible to avoid talking about cybersecurity. And in this case is what ICAO, in this case is about what ICAO is doing about it. I couldn't help noticing that yesterday in his intervention here in Portugal, in Ponte Sor, General Manuel Rolo, the President of NAB Portugal, mentioned cybersecurity as an area of great concern and where the air navigation service provider of Portugal is investing a lot of their efforts, noticing that the resilience of their systems is essential due to the 365 days, 24 hours a day nature of their business, and we will see later why. Can you confirm if the slide is moved? Yes? Okay, going back in time for a moment, and for those less familiar with the organization, ICAO was born during the Second World War when aviation was already becoming relatively well developed. And it became evident to some visionaries of the time that something needed to be done to guarantee that aviation did not transform in a threat to the global security. So in 1944, the first international trust framework was created, and it's called Convention on the International Civil Aviation, or the Chicago Convention as we know it. And that was the birth certificate of ICAO. Over the years, the membership evolved from the initial number of 54 member states, and Portugal was one of them, to the 193 of today. Looking at the structure, ICAO has three main governing bodies. The Assembly, where all the member states have a seat, and that meets every 3 years. It's at this high-level political body that elects the 36 member states to be represented on the Council, examines and takes appropriate action on the reports of the Council, and decides any matter reported to it by the Council and approves the budgets of the organization. And that's the picture on the left of one of the editions of the Assembly. In the middle, we have the Council, presently presided by Mr. Salvatore Ciacchitano, who we had the pleasure of listening yesterday in his keynote address from Montreal, which is a permanent body of the organization composed of 36 member states representatives. It carries out the directions of the Assembly and discharges the duties and obligations which are laid on by the Chicago Convention. It also administers the finances of ICAO and appoints and defines the duties of the various committees. It also appoints the members of the Air Navigation Commission, where I sit, every 3 years. So on the left picture we have, on the right picture, we have the Air Navigation Commission, also a permanent body of the ICAO, and is composed of 19 experienced technical experts in the areas of safety and air navigation. Although nominated by specific ICAO member states and appointed by the Council, they do not represent the interest of any particular state or region. Rather, they act independently and utilize their expertise in the interest of the entire international aviation community. The Air Navigation Commission has established groups of experts called panels, helping ICAO in different developments and in different areas related to the air navigation safety, capacity, and efficiency. In total, we have 17 panels of experts, offered by the states and industry, who meet regularly another panel on environment, and also one in security. And security here means physical security. And that's how we develop standards, recommended practices, procedures, and guidance material, and get consensus on global basis. There is no vote. All is decided by consensus and compromises. Obviously, under this governing structure and to support the work of this international community of diplomats and technical experts, there is the ICAO Secretariat, whose work is managed by the Secretary General, Ms. Fang Liu, at the moment, with a workforce of almost 1,000 people based mainly in the headquarters in Montreal, but with 8 regional offices around the globe. Now that we briefly looked at the organization of ICAO, let's talk about cybersecurity and why it is such an important subject when we fly digital. For a moment, I ask you, of course, to forget about the pandemic and look at the traffic forecast that we could see around the middle of the last decade. So this is the picture that we could see in terms of forecast for the traffic that we would have around 2040. We know today that the picture beyond 2020 will be quite different, but I am a great believer in the strength of the aviation industry, and I'm sure it will recover from this crisis. Once that happens, the trend will certainly be to continue on the path of growth. Also, the digital transformation is a reality that will not be affected by the numbers. And also, even with budget restrictions, that will certainly result from the current crisis, of course. The investments in the modernization, which means in a great deal digitalization, will certainly continue. And again, now Portugal as an example, with a new ATM system they intend to implement in the control center in Lisbon. Independently of the speed of the recovery, cybersecurity is today probably even more important than before COVID-19, since it's a given that there is an increase in the number of cyber attacks in a time of crisis. So the challenge ahead of us is still the same. All the aviation professionals involved in the evolution of the different aviation systems have to do their best to allow this evolution to be safe, secure, and sustainable. Challenges such as integration of unmanned aircraft systems in a non-segregated airspace, the safe and secure use of satellite technologies for communication, navigation, and surveillance, applications to improve exchange of data and information, respecting parameters of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of these information systems are only some examples. In ICAO, from a regulatory perspective, we have a global air navigation plan, which we can see as a roadmap for the evolution of the global aviation system that considers all these evolutions. This plan is a living document, updated every 3 years, and today also evolving to a digital format, which forms the basis for ICAO and its member states in the area of air navigation. Even yesterday, I was in a meeting of the Air Navigation Commission discussing a working paper about the evolution of the Global Air Navigation Plan that will be presented to next year's high-level safety conference, which will focus on the plan's contribution to the safety and resilience of international civil aviation. Well, the resilience component of the paper focuses mainly on the cyber resilience and the importance role it plays in the safety, but also in the continuity of international civil aviation. And it comes to, and this point comes a question for the reflection. Do you think that all these innovations in the global air navigation system to build a new era in the aviation can also bring some problems? I'm sure you all agree that the answer has to be yes. The research and development side of aviation has been doing everything they can to improve our capability for exchanging data and information to allow all the players in the field to make better decisions with more knowledge and greater wisdom. And lessons learned from other technical fields. It is widely known that independently of the sector or area we consider, In a digital world, we need to establish identity and maintain trust. So among other streams of work taking place at ICAO, I'm just referring to one of the components, the development of an international aviation trust framework. This is necessary and aligned with the plans ICAO has developed in the past, like the Global Air Traffic Management Operational Concept, GATMOC, published as ICAO document 9854 in 2005. And that served as guidance for the actual Global Air Navigation Plan and the Regional Air Navigation Plans. And we accept the fact that we cannot eliminate all the threats to the system, but reduce them through a trust framework that now involves not only the aviation community, but also other relevant technological players. And here is a good point to define cybersecurity in the context of civil aviation. The term cybersecurity has its genesis in the information technology world, where in the early days, the idea of creating firewalls would solve all the operational problems. Later, the experts realized that there is no system that can be 100% secure. When they accepted that the threats evolve faster than the systems, that's when it was realized that we should, although continuing with the development of measures for protection of systems through security measures, we should also focus on the resilience of the operations, with focus on the functions realized by information technology systems, but also the operational technology. This would be the only way to achieve goals of increasing capacity and efficiency without compromising agreed levels of safety. And to achieve this, core elements of the trust framework are now being developed. A trust bridges to improve recognition of identities across boundaries, development of processes for recognition of digital identities, and all linked to the international laws like the Chicago Convention and the Beijing Convention, which criminalizes certain terrorist actions against civil aviation. The Trust Framework Study Group, and to progress the work of the Air Navigation Commission, we authorized the establishment of this Trust Framework Study Group that now has three main tasks: the development of the concept of operations, the trusted network, and the trusted digital identity. The milestones that we have defined are the production of documentation in the next year, 2021, like the Internet Protocol v6 address block procurement, the global top-level domain, and the legal framework. In 2024, the trials are due to start with the participation of the FAA and Eurocontrol, for example, as long as Embry-Riddle and other organizations of the kind. And we foresee operations of this network starting in 2025. And for your knowledge, this is a work that requires lots of coordination, considering the impact in several areas and organizations. From ICAO panels to internet governing and technical bodies, like the International Cooperation for Assigned Names and Numbers, and the Internet Engineering Task Force, which is a standards organization, and many others. So it's a very complex work. So to finalize, and also involves the work of ICAO panels and study groups and other bureaus within the organization, apart from the Air Navigation Bureau, the ICANN, the IETF, and other institutions related to this matter. And to finalize my presentation, coming back to the beginning, this whole process starts with the ICAO Assembly, where the 193 member states decide every 3 years, and for the last 75 years, on the path to be followed by international civil aviation, and commit by signing the convention to follow that path. So this ends my presentation. Thank you very much, and it was a great honor to be here for the 4th time in this magnificent event. Good afternoon to all. Thank you.